Welcome into the 143 Under Review, coming at you with episode 97.
Yes, sir. Football was played this week, and we're here to talk about it.
That we are, as usual. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone who's listening to this. Thanksgiving week. Got some nice games on Thursday, and the Cowboys will be playing their annual Thanksgiving game.
And there is a Black Friday game, which is a new addition.
And just like that Black Friday and how, everything is cheap, this game will also not be great. So
it will be cheap and boring. It is the Dolphins versus the New York Jets, and the New York Jets have announced earlier that Zach Wilson will not be making the start on Friday.
Playing their third string. So go shopping on Friday.
It will be a slop fest.
Yeah.
Needless to say, it will not be a good game to watch.
And honestly, there were a lot of those this weekend as well, I would say. Those primetime games that we were so excited for, they all turned out to be pretty bad, as usual.
Yep.
There's just been there's been a primetime curse.
An epidemic lately.
I think that the title of this episode is going to be the primetime curse, because every primetime game, even the ones that should be good, have not been. Like the Thursday night one, Ravens-Bengals, Joe Burrow is out for the season. Ravens run away with it. Tonight, we're recording this on Monday night, Chiefs and the Eagles, Super Bowl rematch. It's raining the whole game, and everyone's terrible. So, I think there's just a primetime curse on this season, and we'll get into that more here in a sec. Start us out with the stat of the week, brought to you by Andrews Logistics. It's about tonight's game. There were a total of 15 drop passes tonight by the Chiefs receivers. And one of them being the key drop at the very end of the game, minute 48 left. Mahomes throws it to Marquez Valdes-Scantling in the end zone, drops the pass. Could have been the game winner for the Chiefs. But, of course, the Eagles are the luckiest team in the NFL, and they come out on top. They are now 9-1. And for the whole rest of the week, we have to hear about how amazing the Eagles are yet again.
Which also, another thing that's interesting is the Chiefs lead the league in dropped passes this season.
Not great. The receivers have been terrible. And everyone was expecting them to pick up receivers at the trade deadline, and they did not. So,
because obviously that's been an issue for them all season.
Yep.
And it unfortunately, of course, got exposed, and the Eagles would get away.
The Eagles got lucky again.
Get away with it.
Nothing else is new.
So your player of the week is Mr. Tank Dell, who has been on a heater.
Beast.
Since he got here to Houston, plays for the Texans. They beat the Cardinals this week, and the Texans have been on the rise this season for the first time in ever.
They're good.
They're finally good again.
Playing the Jags this weekend for the division lead. Yeah.
He had 8 total catches for 149 yards and a touchdown. So he's been just cooking it up. He's at 659 yards on the season.
He should probably have a 1,000 yard
Easily
season.
could be a 1,000-yard receiver this season. So good job, Tank Dell.
Yeah, Texans are rolling. No one saw it coming. CJ Stroud's looking great. Did throw 3 picks against the Cardinals, but they came out on top.
Mm-hmm. So, but their wide receiver, their receiving core, their skill room has really shined. I mean, Tank Dell, who we just talked about, Nico Collins has been a weapon.
Noah Brown,
Dalton Schultz, and then Devin Singletary has been seeming to
revamping his career,
tear it up these last couple weeks. He's been with the Bills for a little bit, and then got dished out to the Texans this offseason, and he's been making a name for himself with Damian Pierce going down to an injury.
I mean, their defense doesn't get enough credit because their offense has been so good, but the defense has been lights out when they need to be as well. The head coach, Ryans, who came in as a defensive coordinator from the 49ers, he's really turned the whole thing around, and you got to give him credit. I would say, we talked about it last week too, like Houston's on the come up. This isn't a Houston-Dallas thing at all. But obviously I hope that they win their division and put the Jaguar hype to rest. So
yeah, the Jags have been getting overhyped. They're kind of putting Trevor Lawrence on this pedestal that I don't really think he deserves to be on. There were a lot of people this offseason saying that the Jaguars would win the AFC in general when it's now it's not even a given if they're going to win their division or not because
They
the Houston
play.
Texans have came to play.
They play this weekend for their last head-to-head match this season, and so hopefully the Texans come out on top.
But also in their last head-to-head matchup in Jacksonville,
Texans
the
smoked
Texans got the better of
They
the
beat them by a
Jaguars. So
lot.
we'll see how this one turns out.
Jags also got the win this week over the Titans. Not much to say there. Titans were terrible. They were playing on a backup quarterback.
They've been
as well.
struggling all season long.
So we'll briefly just say the Cowboys took care of business in Carolina like they were expected to. Quiet game from Dak. Got to highlight Deron Bland with another pick six, his fourth one of the season, tying the single season record in the NFL. So we need one more pick six at least from Mr. Deron Bland. How about we show him on Thanksgiving?
Get him that record.
How about we show him on Thanksgiving?
I already told Joseph this off air. I'm calling it. He's gonna get his fifth record-breaking pick six on Thursday night, just because Sam Howell is a pick throwing machine.
Yep.
They keep testing 26, and 26 makes you pay for it every time. So I think on Thanksgiving Day he's gonna get that fifth pick six.
Also, there's a reason that the Lions game is always at 11:30 when people are eating Thanksgiving dinner. Normally they're eating, from that 12 to 2.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. They start. There's a reason the Cowboys play at 3:30 on Thanksgiving Central Time. Okay, it's because everyone's done eating and they want to watch the Cowboys.
But the other thing is, the Lions, for the first time in ever, are finally
Are good.
once again.
So we can maybe see a good first game.
Absolutely.
Lions edge out the Bears 31-26. They were down 2 scores, Nick, with 3 minutes left in the ball game, and came roaring back to take the win.
Jared Goff did not look great for
He was not very good.
most of the game. He was struggling to move the ball down the field, as was that entire offense. He had 3 total interceptions, but he locked in, hunkered down, set up a good drive when it mattered most, and then their defense, led by Aiden Hutchinson, just suffocated the Bears' offense, and we just threw a little icing on the cake at the end with a little safety action, and so the Lions would squeak out a win over the Bears, 26-31. This was Justin Fields' first game back in some weeks. I don't remember exactly how many.
And he's the one
He
that
looked-
lost in the game in the end.
He looked okay. I mean, nothing special.
Nope.
We never thought Justin Fields was anything special. They were trying to sell you this whole narrative that he could possibly win the MVP, that he's going to be in that race. And me and Joseph have been sitting here
No.
telling you that's a load of baloney.
Yeah, Justin Fields, nothing special there. It's nice, like we said with the Texans, it's nice for the Lions to be good. I've never seen them be good ever, so it's nice for them to be good. But happy they got the win. Hopefully they will beat the Packers on Thanksgiving.
We're also just huge fans of Dan Campbell because he's such a
Love
likable
Dan
guy.
Campbell. Love him. He's from A&M.
Changed the entire culture. Stuck it out with this team.
Yeah, also-
went through some really, really bad seasons with the Lions.
All you hopeful Aggies that he's about to take the head coaching job here, no one in their right mind would leave the NFL when they're having success.
Just the arrogance of some people to think that Dan Campbell would come here. It is mind-boggling.
He came out and said, absolutely not. Also, he's in a contract
Rightly
here.
so.
He's about to get a nice
I was about to say,
hefty
he is going to
payday.
get a big old paycheck.
So let's just squash those
Just
right
hush
here
your
now.
mouth.
Not really many other exciting games or important games from the 12 o'clock
The
slot.
Dolphins got themselves a win over the Raiders. It was an ugly, sloppy win. Obviously, a win's a win, but
As were all the games. this
against
week.
the Raiders, against an Aiden O'Connell-led offense, you should be smoking teams. After we saw you put up 70 against the Denver Broncos,
They set the
earlier
bar
in the
high for
season-
themselves this season because of that.
the first couple weeks of the season, they showed off their high-powered,
Yep.
high-octane, high-scoring offense, and then recently it's just not been looking like that, especially this week. They were just struggling. But, hey, at the end of the day, they got the win, and that's all that matters. A win is a win. An interdivisional matchup in the AFC North. You have the Steelers versus the Cleveland Browns. Big thing there for the Browns is handing the reins to Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, DTR as they like to call him. Obviously, that's a little bit easier to say.
Yeah. They defense. I mean, this was a defensive game, like everyone knew it would be. Both quarterbacks are not good. Browns were able to win it with a field goal, like they did the week before. They won 13-10. Neither one of those teams is really going to do much this season. Another AFC North matchup was the Thursday night game that we mentioned before. Ravens run away with it, but they lose Mark Andrews, their tight end, and the Bengals lose Joe Burrow for the season. So that game was just more hurtful than helpful for either of those teams.
Yeah.
And suffered significant injuries to their key players. Needless to say, the Bengals will be done for the season.
I mean, actually, we don't know that for certain. They did sign XFL Renegade quarterback
Out of Arlington.
a couple days ago.
Champ.
I was about to say he's a champion.
He knows how to win.
So could he bring
Not
back
in the regular season.
the Cincinnati Bengals? I mean, who knows? Who's to say?
You know, I mean, we have Arlington is a city of champions.
Of winning, right?
Right now. Hey, you know what, though? I just realized the Renegades won, the Rangers won, the last Arlington team, the Cowboys.
Exactly.
Got to cap it off. Anyways, so that happened, and hopefully we wish him luck because he's an Arlington boy. But moving on to Packers-Chargers. Chargers lose yet another close game. They're 0-5 in games that are closer than, or 3 points or closer. Brandon Staley's in the hot seat. Chargers just dropped a couple touchdown passes in the end to give the Packers the win. And not looking good, Nick. Is it Herbert's fault or Staley's fault?
I don't know. It's.
At some point, we gotta look at Herbert. I
think so too. I say, if you're gonna get rid of anyone, it's obviously gonna be Brandon.
Yeah,
Staley.
it's gonna be Brandon Staley.
And if it doesn't work with whoever Joe Blow they bring in, next coaching job, then that's when you start looking at.
They
Justin
should have
Herbert.
already gotten rid of Brandon Staley.
I gotta be honest. He should have been gone after last season.
Yes.
I feel like
After he blew a 27-point
they
lead in the
barely
playoffs.
they snuck into the playoffs.
And then that lead that
It was
they
just
blew
an
crazy.
atrocious game. It was just an absolute abomination.
I mean, yeah, there's no excuse there. But Chargers lose again. Packers win. We'll see the Packers on Thanksgiving Day against the Lions, where they will probably suffer a loss.
yeah.
Really quickly, Giants beat the Commanders 31-19. Not really important. Both teams are
Not
terrible.
much there, but I guess the big story was Tommy DeVito, who is the current Giants starting quarterback
They
after
kind of let him loose a little bit.
they suffered some injuries at the quarterback position, and then they kind of let Tommy DeVito do his thing. He threw
did.
for 246 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I mean, it doesn't matter who it was against. That's impressive for a guy that was undrafted, who's a rookie, who still lives with his parents.
I mean, nobody knew this guy even existed until a couple weeks ago.
He's kind of been bragging that he lives with his parents and that his mom makes him dinner and does his laundry and stuff. And Nick, I don't know if as an NFL starting quarterback that's much of a bragging point.
Yeah, that
I don't
confuses
know if
me.
that's something that I would come out publicly saying. I don't know about you, but that's not something I'd brag about.
Personally, not me, no.
I also probably wouldn't. Yeah. Anyway, so we're not gonna say anything that can get us in trouble on the air here. But Mr. DeVito, maybe we just learn how to do the press conferences and just talk about football. You know, that's my advice because he's getting flamed right now by a lot of people because he lives with his parents.
True.
But hey, you know what? He's gonna make some good money after this season.
I mean, absolutely. They paid Daniel Jones a fortune.
They threw a bunch of money
for
at Daniel
him to
Jones.
do nothing.
So good for Mr. DeVito. Bucks Niners, Nick.
Not much to say there. People were expecting the Niners to roll over the Bucks,
And they did.
get a little bounce back week. You know, they've been struggling as of lately, but everyone's finally back in the saddle. You got everyone healthy.
They're looking
for
good.
The
They're looking
49ers
good.
offense. So they're just getting back into the regular 49ers that we're used to seeing in the regular season.
Yep.
Little
Jets.
rematch between the Jets and the Bills. Obviously,
What a doozy.
that was
Yet another Jets game where the Jets were terrible
Yeah.
and the Bills, they weren't even that great, but the Jets were worse. And so the Bills won 32-6.
I mean, it's a miracle that the Jets have won 4 games because their offense is so bad.
At least they beat the Eagles because no one
They
else
don't
can.
even know what the end zone is
No, they
because that offense has been struggling to put 6 on the board. Obviously, the only way they do that is by kicking 2 field goals, unfortunately. But
don't. No, they did. They scored It's the 6 as
They
a touchdown.
finally got a touchdown, but
Brees Hall, I think.
yeah, he
He
had
was
a
the
little
only guy on that
receiving. He like ran for no yards at all, but he had a good little receiving day for
we saw
him.
a stat where the receivers combined for 9 yards.
Yeah, for 9 yards.
That's pathetic. So they're going to be starting their third string on Friday, Black Friday game, like we said.
I mean, for that, I say why not? You know,
Let's go.
I think it's
Just
been
sign me.
It's been proven that Zach Wilson's not the guy. The only reason he still had that starting job was because he was a first rounder.
Yeah, in no way, shape, or form does this show that the Bills are back in business. I know everybody's kind of overreacting.
They just beat
to
up
this.
on a garbage
Yeah,
team.
the team is terrible, and
They're struggling. They don't have a quarterback. Their offense has been horrible since day one.
Yeah, we
So
keep having to watch 'em.
You did exactly what you were supposed to do.
Rams Seahawks. This one was won because Jason Myers missed a game-winning field goal for the Seahawks. Rams took the win 17-16. Biggest news out of this game is Geno Smith was hurt for most of the second half. Came back in, led him down the field, but there's concern that Geno will not play Thursday night. So another Thursday night game with a possible starting quarterback out against the 49ers.
But obviously, you're worried about their season because the Seahawks moved down to 6-4. You know, they're in contention to win their division.
If they win
right now.
Thursday night, they would take the lead.
But they obviously
They need
need
Geno.
Geno Smith.
Because Drew Lock is not.
Drew Lock is not the guy. We've seen what he does, and we saw him in his days in Denver when he was the guy, and he's just not efficient.
Sunday night football, Minnesota versus Denver, actually turned out to be a pretty decent game in terms of really close, down to the wire. The Broncos struggled in the red zone, kicking 5 field goals before they finally drove down. Russell Wilson threw it to his guy, Courtland Sutton, in the end zone with a minute left. Scored the go-ahead touchdown. In the end, Josh Dobbs couldn't get it done in the last minute. They had to drive down. TJ Hawkinson dropped a couple, and they just couldn't connect with anyone in that last minute. But Denver, I think that's their 5th game in a row.
Yep, they're now 5-5. How about that?
Yeah,
Back to 500. That offense has been a struggling as of late, they've been struggling at the beginning of the season, but they've been kind of getting their feet under them lately. But when it mattered most and they needed to go down and get a touchdown, I mean, that's exactly what they did. That Courtland Sutton Russell Wilson connection is proving to be somewhat lethal.
I'd say they're looking better every week. You know, I think that the offense is slowly getting where it needs to be. I'm not saying they're going to do anything this year, but at least nobody has to get fired at the end of the season.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
That's just a plus for all of them. And they very well could snag a wild card spot with how bad everyone's been this year, and the AFC just is honestly kind of a toss up right now, outside of the top 4 teams. And so you never know what could happen. And then tonight you got Chiefs Eagles reigning in Arrowhead. Chiefs were up 17-7 at halftime and did not score a single point after that, as the Eagles scored 2 touchdowns to win the game.
Everyone was excited most people were excited to see how this one would go because you've got the NFL
Finally a good primetime.
and the referees' 2 favorite teams in the NFL. So you're like, who are they going to throw flags on?
They decided to throw them on both teams. And
Good on them.
Yeah, and they threw a lot of them. So, I mean, the game itself was close, but it was sloppy because you could blame the weather, but also I just don't think that the quality of play was there tonight. And
I mean, like we said earlier, the Chiefs lead the league in drop passes, and that's ultimately what it came down to.
say what you want about the Eagles, they can't throw the ball.
Absolutely. I mean, their offense
not throw the ball.
would not move down the field without the run game.
So, I mean, I don't understand how they keep winning, and it's making me frustrated.
It really does bother me. And also the other thing is we're going to talk about the media and everyone else is going to talk about how great the Eagles are and this, that, and the other, when it's like, if Marquez Valdez-Scantling can catch that bomb that he gets thrown by Patrick Mahomes at the end of the game, they probably win.
They do win the game at that point. It was very... we see the Eagles as the luckiest team in the NFL. I mean, they're 9-1, but they do not play like a 9-1
Because it's
team.
like they get these little things that just go their way.
They've won these games, all these games very close.
We've been playing the same teams that they have, but the margin of victory is
We've been crushing the teams.
been way different. They lost to the Jets. We beat them by 20.
Yeah.
They beat the Rams by like 9? I think it was
close.
9. And we slapped the Rams, dude. Handled business down there. And it was the same story with the Patriots. You know, they struggled against the Patriots, and we handled business.
I just think that it's going to have to take us. It's going to be in Philly, and we're going to have to play them in the playoffs. We're going to have to beat them.
I was about to say,
silence
whatever
anything.
happens this regular season, like it's going to come down to winning a playoff game in Philadelphia.
Because we're not going to win out, probably. And so neither are they, but we have to close a 2-game gap. I don't think that's going to happen with how their games have been going. It's looking like we will need to win round 1 to play them in round 2 of the playoffs this year. But you know what? What I think about is, and I remember a similar story that happened recently as there was another team that didn't beat their rival for the division recently. Played them in the second round of playoffs and ended up taking the series at the other team's home.
Man, I can't seem to. Yeah, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, the Texas
We don't even
Rangers.
need to mention it. But yeah, that's just what it comes down to is, regular season, obviously it's important, but
It's
like,
shaping up to be very similar.
we're starting to figure things out as the Dallas offense.
We want to get hot late, so it's okay if we have to do. And honestly, sometimes you don't want that extra week off because you can get complacent. You can get, so we'll see. And hopefully we do take the division. Obviously, you still want to take the division if you can.
Right.
But there's still a little bit of season to play.
But also, these next couple weeks, we're playing a lot better quality teams, aside from, I'm skipping ahead past the Commanders.
Yes. We're hoping that we take that game pretty
In
easy.
no particular order. I know we play the Seahawks, we'll play the Bills, we'll play the Dolphins,
The
and
Eagles.
then the Eagles.
I just think that we're kind of done depending on other teams to help us with the Eagles. Like, we realize we're going to have to get it done ourselves.
Yeah.
So we really wish we could have that game. We lost to them back because we should have won that game. But we'll play them again and then hopefully play them in the playoffs and beat them there. But in all, not a great weekend in the NFL.
Obviously, not really any good primetime games, but that's not anything super surprising because that's how it's been, unfortunately, all season long.
Exactly. But you know what? Dallas handled business, got the win, and that's a plus for us.
That's what it comes down to every week. Who cares what all the other teams in the NFL do? We just need the Dallas Cowboys to show up and handle whoever they're playing on that particular day.
Thanksgiving, football. Thanksgiving means football, food and football. That's how it's
about to
food,
say.
family, football.
That's
what it is.
That's exactly what our founding
America.
fathers and our, the makers of America had envisioned when they came up with Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they did. Toss the pigskin around.
Absolutely.
Eat some food.
Yes. So, here's where we like to end our shows on Under Review. I brought you a quote from the Cam Newton. And he said, "You cannot make progress without excuses." And that's the truth.
That is the truth. Take that with you this week. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Watch some football. Hopefully watch Dallas win. And we will see y'all next week on Under Review.